Have you ever wondered what really happens to your HDB flat after you pass on? Are you sure your loved ones can inherit your property? What if you have a will or no will at all? What if your children already own a HDB flat or a private property? What if they are PRs or foreigners? Can they still inherit and keep the flat? Hi friends, if you are new to my channel, my name is Kenneth, an ex-police officer with 17 years of real estate experience. I work with many families through estate cases so the proceeds could be properly distributed to the beneficiaries. And along the way I realized something. Many people don't know what really happens to an HDB flat after the owner passes on. Can your children inherit the flat? If they already own a HDB or a condo, can they still keep it? And what does HDB actually allow? So in today's video, let's go through clearly and simply. Before anything else, before wills, before HDB rules, there's one detail that quietly decides everything. And most owners don't even remember choosing it. It's called the manner of holding. When you co-own an HDB flat, it determines exactly what happens the moment one owner passes on. And there are two types, joint tenancy and tenancy-in-common. Under joint tenancy, both owners are treated as one single entity. And there's a right of survivorship, meaning the flat automatically goes to the surviving owner. It doesn't go into the estate even if there's a will. Under tenancy-in-common, each owner holds a defined share, 50-50, 70-30 or any split shares. When one owner passes away, their share becomes part of the estate and it doesn't automatically go to the other owner. Sometimes family only find out which one they have after a death has already happened, and by then it might be too late to change anything. If you want to check yours, it's simple. Just log into HDB website and look under flat details. It will clearly show joint tenancy or tenancy-in-common. So which one is better? It depends on your intention. Many couples choose joint tenancy because they want the surviving spouse to take over immediately. Others choose tenancy-in-common because they want the flexibility to pass their share to their children or a specific family members later. But the key point is this: your manner of holding already decides the path your flat will take, long before the will, long before any HDB rules comes into play. If your flat is held under joint tenancy, it doesn't even form part of the estate. The surviving co-owner automatically takes over the flat. No will required. But if the flat is held under tenancy-in-common, or if the person was the sole owner, then their share form part of the estate. And this is where the next questions come in. Do you have a will? Since we are talking about will, you may have heard of grant of probate and letter of administration. Here's a quick difference. Probate is when there's a valid will, the court gives the executor power to act. Letter of administration is when there is no will, the court appoints someone called an administrator to handle the estate. Now if there's no will, Intestate Succession Act decides who inherits. For non-Muslim, here's a quick order. First to the spouse, children or parents, depending on who survives. If none of them, then siblings or grandparents. If none of those, then uncles and aunts. If there's no surviving relative at all, then everything goes to the government. And one important detail families often miss is timing. The administrator or executor generally has up to 6 years to act. After that, they lost the automatic right to do so. Beyond 6 years, they must get the court approval, and that usually comes with more costs, more paperwork and more waiting. And that's why it's best not to leave the estate hanging for too long. The most common question I get are if I already own a HDB, or if I own a condo, or if I'm a PR or foreigner, can I inherit a HDB flat? The truth is, the real question isn't whether you can inherit, because with a valid will or by law, you can. The right question is, can you keep it? If you don't qualify to keep the flat, HDB will require it to be sold. You'll still get your rightful shares of the proceeds, but you won't be able to keep the flat itself. So let's break down the common scenarios. I already own a HDB flat. Can I keep the inherited HDB flat? You can't keep both. HDB will require you to dispose one of the flat, so a decision has to be made. If I already own a private condo, can I keep the inherited HDB? Yes, but only if you meet a few specific HDB conditions. You can take over the inherited HDB flats if the flat has already met the minimum occupation period MOP, and you are eligible to own the HDB under prevailing scheme, for example, forming a family nucleus or 35 or above as a single. And you and your listed occupants must physically stay in the HDB flat after the transfer, meaning the HDB must be your place of residence. If these conditions are not met, then the inherited flat has to be sold and you will only receive your share of the sales proceeds. By the way, I also did some checking. Online, I saw people saying things like the flat must be purchased before 30th August 2010 or whether the flat was subsidized. To be safe, I clarified this with a HDB officer in November 2025 and was told that these factors are not relevant anymore. I hope this helped to clear things up. But just a reminder, policy can change and every family situation is different. So if you are unsure, please check directly with HDB and if possible, get a black and white because sometimes information over the phone can be interpreted differently. I'm a PR. Can I keep the inherited HDB? If all the proposed owners are SPR, HDB requires that they must have held their SPR status for at least 3 years at the point of applying to take over the flat. And even then, HDB will assess the application based on prevailing eligibility conditions. An SPR household is also not allowed to own more than one HDB flat at the same time. So if you already own a HDB flat and later inherit another one, you must dispose the existing flat before you can take over the inherited ones, subject to approval. Also note that single SPR or SPR siblings do not form eligible family nucleus and therefore cannot retain the inherited flats. I'm a foreigner. Can I keep the inherited HDB flats? No, foreigners are not allowed to own HDB flats. The flats will need to be sold and you are only entitled to keep the proceeds. So yes, inheritance decide who gets the flat, but HDB rules decide who gets to keep it. If you don't qualify, the flat must be sold and only the proceeds can be passed on. And if you can't keep the flat, HDB will require it to be sold. By the way, the content here is intended to help you understand the topic better, not a formal guidance. For official or updated policy, please check with HDB directly. Now coming back, most families don't plan to fight over a home. It just happened when no one knew what to expect. That's why understanding what happened to your HDB early isn't a dark topic. It is about a peace of mind. You have worked hard for your flat. Make sure it truly becomes a gift and not a source of stress for your loved ones. And if you have not done your will yet, now is a good time to start. It is the simplest way to make sure that your wishes are honored. By the way, I did another video explaining what happened to your CPF after you pass on, and most people are surprised to learn what really happens. You can check out here. My name is Kenneth and I'll see you in my next video.